I was recently reading in a book that, in fact, if we go away from our vocation, even if it is to adoration and mass and to 8 hours of prayer, that we will not find the Lord there, because the Lord is in our vocation.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Catholic Link Show. We're your hosts, Drew and Katie Taylor. We pray this time will be your link to living the faith like never before. The other day, we were sitting there in Mass, and I looked over at these Dominican sisters that are at our parish that are so amazing, and they're all just praying. One of them's levitating. They're just like the holiest people ever. Um, and then I looked in our pew, which was like a WWE wrestling match, at which point I'm like pulling our 1-year-old underneath the pew. And at some point, it just becomes really easy to look at someone else's life or vocation and covet that and just wish that I could just sit there in silence and pray for 8 hours a day.
I think this is an area that the Lord has just been pouring a lot of healing into my life. There is honestly many years of pain in a way of not being chosen for the religious vocation, seeing that as the holier state or the desired state. And even though I love my husband, I love my kids, I love my role as a mother, it is somewhere where the devil had twisted something that is beautiful. The religious vocation is beautiful, but it's not mine. And so he had started to put this like, but that would be better. But your life would be easier. You could be holy if you had that. And just all of those little whispers of lies and accusations, which is not the Lord's design. He didn't give me that vocation. That's not where I'm going to find holiness, has been, just such a place of new healing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, I think it's really important to just emphasize this and encourage people in the state of life that they're in, because vocation comes from the Latin word vocare, which means to call. So that this is your calling, our calling in life. God's calling for all of us is a call to holiness. And the way that he does that for Katie and I is through marriage. And so we are not called to live a monastic life. In fact, if we were to pray for literally like, a holy hour and pray 8 hours a day and totally ignore our kids, like that would be terrible.
I was recently reading in a book that, in fact, if we go away from our vocation, even if it is to adoration and mass and to 8 hours of prayer, that we will not find the Lord there, because the Lord is in our vocation where he's called us to be. And yeah, like how challenging that is, because we finish our day sometimes and we're like, should have prayed more.
Yeah.
Like I should have been at adoration, or I should, all the shoulds that come into your mind.
That's so easy. So I think this is an important time or distinction to talk about prayer and what that looks like, especially within a married life, because that can be really difficult. And if you didn't grow up with like a really Catholic family, which neither of us did, it's hard to know what that looks like. And so I think it's important to say, yes, in the married life, you're not called to be away in total silence and solitude for 8 hours a day.
Every day.
Every day.
You may take some retreats in there.
Yeah, for sure. But you are still called to pray every day. And I think that is really important. Now, what that looks like will look different than the vocation of the religious life. Now, we should still be fighting for some quiet time, some reflection, some contemplation with the Lord. I think that is really important. Now, whether that's 5 or 10 or 15 or 30 minutes, then that's fine, but you're still fighting for that. But there's also another piece of the fact that we can offer up our acts of service to the Lord. Scott Hahn has a great talk about when he was converting from Protestantism to Catholicism. And like one of the weirdest things that Catholics believe is this idea of offering things up. And to hear him talk about it, and he's like, offer what up? But we as Catholics believe that you can offer up your sacrifices to be able to unite yourself to Christ on the cross. And then that will grow you in holiness.
Yes. And Yeah, I think to echo Drew's point, first and foremost, we definitely encourage daily personal prayer. We encourage prayer as a couple, and then there's prayer with the kids. And so intentional formation of a relationship with the Lord, an encounter with Him, to also grow spiritually, to
Mhm.
continue to read. But there is the other side that we just want to talk about today specifically of I we were staying with a religious community and I sat down in front of the tabernacle, and it's beautiful to get to stay and live and sleep with the tabernacle. And I was like, oh, like I would love this part of the religious vocation. And my husband, not missing a beat, because I was like, I would love to live at the tabernacle. He goes, you live with five. Oh, you are right. And how little we look at our spouse and our kids that way, that they are an image bearer of the Lord, that Christ is with them, that they are a beloved child of God, that they are a way that I experience the Lord's love for me, and how challenging that is. One of my life verses that I love to live by is John chapter 17, verse 17. And it says, I sanctify myself so that they too may be sanctified in truth. And I was sitting and I was reading that, and right below it in John chapter 17, verse 24, it says, Father, they are your gift to me. And just this reality that my children are a gift, that they are the gift of the Lord for my sanctification. It's in some ways, as a parent, I look at like, how do I sanctify you? How do I turn you into a saint? How do I grow you in virtue? And in reality, the Lord's like, they're going to grow you in virtue and they're going to sanctify you. They're going to help you become a saint. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Lord.
And it was interesting while we were staying with the religious community, they had their morning schedule, and it was wake up early and, eat a quick breakfast and then pray a holy hour and then do the office of readings. And then there was mass. And so we looked at it and we were like, yeah, we would love to join you in that stuff. But by the time we got up, our morning looked like trying to keep four children alive by convincing them they have to eat, and then finding shoes for them with which miraculously disappear all the time. And then right, so like we're changing diapers, we're helping these children, helping ourselves, just trying to get out the door. And then the only thing that we actually made it to was the mass. But I think you could look at that and go, oh, well, these priests and these religious community, they're just so holy because they're praying all the time. And I'm here just like making oatmeal again. Um, but that is our prayer. That and I would argue no less holy or sanctifying to be able to serve these children. Dr. Gregory Popchak has a book with his wife that they wrote called "The Corporal Works of Mommy and Daddy Too," and I love that idea, right? So you have the corporal works of mercy, which are feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and it's like that is what we do every day as parents. So we have this opportunity to offer up these things that we do as a prayer to the Lord, but we miss that opportunity if we do them begrudgingly or we don't see them as a prayer or a sacrifice. Then we miss out on so many opportunities for us to grow in holiness.
Okay, so shout out to the servants of Christ Jesus, because I'll tell another story of this religious community.
Yeah.
So my spiritual director, I'll never forget walking in to Father James's office and looking at him and going, your community is all about penance. And you've been my spiritual director for 10 years. And quite honestly, I suck at it. Like, I don't get this. Like I need you to form me in this basically. And he looked at me and he just goes, Katie, your whole life is penance. How many times were you up last night? Like, I took away salt this morning as an act of sacrifice. I have to have a 4 a.m. holy hour. Otherwise, I just sleep all the time. Like, how many times are you woken up at 4 a.m. to care for one of those little tabernacles? But just him going, you have so many penances the Lord is just naturally giving you. And we have an opportunity in motherhood, in our fatherhood, to again offer those to the Lord, but joyfully accept what He is giving us as our path to sanctity. Because it's easy for me to look, and we got home from this trip to Denver and I had to clean out the car.
Oh, that is sanctifying.
And we were headed to adoration afterwards. We still went, but I just like went and I was like, I could be in adoration right now. Like some people's vocation is to offer mass. Mine is purely I am going to offer the sacrifice of this disgusting. I didn't even know kids could make a car that gross. Turns out 30 hours in the car, they did some work. And so just like intentionally looking and going like, Lord, this is my gift to you. This is my prayer to you. I'm going to offer this for these intentions that I have committed to pray for. And I'm going to entrust that this is the place that you have called me to, because this is the greatest gift to my family, to these lives that you, have gifted me with.
And I think that sometimes we think of holiness as just these great heroic
Yes.
acts. Um, but the day-to-day, I think, looks a lot more like Saint Teresa of Lisieux, which is the little way, right? It's doing little things with great love. Um, and those are the things that are really going to grow us in virtue, in the sense of when you work out, right? It's these little repetitions that will continue to keep building your muscles. And that's how the spiritual life is too. It's not these like life or death moments where we choose Christ, but in a way, like you are doing that every single day when you're dying to yourself and you're choosing to serve the Lord, you're choosing to serve your family, and you're choosing to do that joyfully.
Yes. And I feel like we've been talking a lot about the parenting side of the vocation of marriage. I
Mm.
think that there is also the reality that our marriage calls us to this, to an act of sacrifice for the other, for the other's needs, desires. And I think in parenting in this phase of life where we're at right now, most of those services come by letting me sleep in while you take care of 4 children and like all of those beautiful gifts to me. But I do think that it's important to remember that even without children, that your marriage is your place of sanctification. And maybe even in that season of waiting, of unknown, of hard without children,
Mhm.
that there is even more of a need to turn to each other in that season. Oh, well, please know that we are praying for you in our chaos, to your chaos, that the Lord is sanctifying us and hopefully growing us in joy.
And if you found value in this video, share it with a friend and leave a comment below. We love to hear from you guys. Sometimes it's difficult to just talk to a camera and pray that you're making a difference in someone's life. So if that person is you, just let us know. We'd love to connect with you guys and hear from you. So leave a comment. And we'll see you next time. We are praying for you. Take care and God bless.